welcome back to Reality with Reality Hub. Rob and Steve sitting here, and we're going to go with something woo-woo today.
We are indeed. Hello, everyone.
It's been a while since we really tapped the source of woo-woo-ness, and we can do that anywhere and at any time. So we're going to do that in the busy Browne Street Cafe.
Yeah, and I think we've had quite a few guests on of recent, and we've talked about, obviously, everything that's been happening this year from their perspective. And yeah, I think I feel that sometimes to access the woo-woo, you kind of got to be in that sort of energetic state. I know for me, there are definitely times when I'm more in tune with it and resonate with it. And then the other times you're sort of back in the matrix and you sort of just got to start talking about the normal human stuff that we all deal with. Yeah,
that's right. And by woo-woo, I don't think we mean things like fraudulent election or force-mandated vaccines. I think what we mean is the inner self, the deeper nature of reality, and some of the spiritual sides of things that we haven't talked about for a while.
Yeah, sort of those topics that I think, the Reality Hub, one of the things that I've always sort of said about Reality Hub is to try and stimulate topics of conversation that are beyond the sort of mainstream stuff. So as you say, go deeper and what's really going on with your in your life and why. Getting to the deeper levels of consciousness, of emotional realms, and so it's that whole getting to know yourself and asking those questions. And yeah, it's always been my hope that Reality Hub sort of piques your interest or stimulates that and inspires you to do that and to take your own inner journey to discover these things about yourself that maybe you'll learn something about yourself. And as we've always said here, to question your programming, to keep questioning the narrative, the stories that you create.
That's a very important question. I think, and our last question will be, what have we learned from 2020? And I've got that question down on our list. We've got a shared list of 15 things we're going to talk about. And I don't know what I've learned from 2020. I hope to find it through the course of the podcast today, of today's episode. We're at Browne Street Cafe, thanks to Bailey, who's just handed us a lovely meal each.
So I know, lunch has arrived.
We'll quietly and discreetly eat that during the episode. But hey, we're human, and if you hear chewing sounds, that happens to be something we've all done. Let's start with the first question.
Feeding the physical body is important.
Yeah, especially feeding it the right way, right?
Yes.
So today's episode is about the art of humanness and the binary nature of reality. Do you want to kick off what you mean by the binary nature of reality?
So yeah, binary, in its meaning, basically, bi means two. So there's always this polarity at play, I call it. And in simple terms, it's like there's an up and there's a down. There's a good and there's a bad. There is a left and there is a right. There is a hot and cold.
There's an in and there's an out.
Yes. And of course, that's there. So there's sort of two polarities that we're playing, north and south. I know there's east and west, but it's kind of the opposite. So it's all about it.
It's about the contrasting nature.
Of
Existence, which shows us, rather than being in a spiritual form where you're one with everything, but rather the nature of being human is to be able to see opposing sides.
Yeah.
Light and dark and so on.
And you see that played out everywhere. We choose sides. We're either leaning towards one, we're really... I believe there's infinite sort of experiences and feelings and emotions we can tap into, but we're sort of in a particular state at a particular time for particular reasons, and we can veer, we can feel really, really depressed for whatever reason, or we can feel really, really up. So we're sort of always riding those waves of energy and emotions and feelings and, all that sort of stuff. So that's what I kind of mean by, it's basically, simply put, that we're living in a reality of contrasting expressions.
So I had
in its simplistic form.
To talk about your writing of the emotions recently, I had some quite intense emotional experiences to do with end of year reporting and summing up of the year, which is a thing I've been with the job. And I went through a lot, and it was a tough time. And then they asked me to prepare more and get things more ready for a second round of this kind of stuff, because we have to, as a lot of people do in their jobs, justify their existence and recap the year and see what you've learned and all that sort of stuff from a job perspective. And in a way, that is in part why I want us to go through this today from a woo-woo perspective. Because if your job can do it, why can't you have an assessment of your life spiritually, of what it is you are, maybe where you're going, what you want to do, from the perspective of you as a whole person. Yeah. And I think the 15 conversation starters you've got for us today really, really kick that into the right direction. So if I may, I'll start with the first one.
Yeah.
And this is all credit to Rob. He sits, meditates, and I don't like the phrase download, but he certainly gets inspired with some of these questions. And the first one is, what does it mean to be human, as in the inherent qualities, being a humane being? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so let's go woo-woo straight away. If there was another race or species that had never encountered a human being, and this race or species were visiting Earth, what would be the qualities that they would see in a human being?
Well, that we're very good drivers.
Yeah, that we don't have flying cars yet. So what I've heard this time and time again, that our innate nature is that we are actually caring, loving, humane beings. And that got me thinking. I go, yeah, but there's evil and there's bad, and there are crazy people out there doing the most insane things that you go, what the? And the thing is, it's almost like the reality sort of forces people to be that way. It's almost like there's some sort of control mechanism at play that forces people into that situation. But if we were just naturally left, like a tree or something in the natural realm, if it's just left to do its thing, its natural essence would be that. It hasn't been tampered with. It hasn't been fucked with. So, yeah. But I think human beings have extraordinary capabilities that we're only just waking up to. And that, to go woo-woo again, that the matrix control system, the program, the mind virus and all that keeps us sort of locked in that prison, not accessing those abilities through sort of dumbed down, down to level 3 or 4 rather than going higher and higher to the higher realms of thinking, consciousness, connection to natural orders and wisdom. And
our schedules lock us into certain things, the things that we are forced to be exposed to. Hardly enough of us get time in nature, and a lot of us are glued to our phones and the rigid sort of frequencies of life through our screens and I like to go down this path, but through the radiation of the energy waves coming off all things that we interact with, it becomes part of our frequency too. And then you become ruled by the Netflix on TV and watching that after work, and not necessarily getting out to connect with yourself or to breathe or to go and get exercise, or guilty as charged. I am. The other thing too is, you mentioned the innate nature of a human being. Well, if you look at a baby, I think you see the innate nature of that human being, and of course they have certain personalities, and they're not all what's the word? They're not all.
They haven't been programmed
perfect.
yet.
But yes, you're right. They're not programmed yet, and you do see their innate nature, and that doesn't mean they're all love and light. But I think they are a lot more love and light than by the time we're done with them as society. Yeah,
because I'll go back to that original question of another species. So if you just look in, say, the animal kingdom or realm, there are certain species that are predators, there are certain species that innately, are hunters, and then there are other ones that are not like that. We're all consumers on some level. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you could distill what it means to be human, which is, probably impossible to do, but there would be some core essences that you could take away, the same way that if you could distill an oak tree or something, you would get these core essence values, and you could go into the whole, is it in our DNA, is it in our genetic code structure, and then, what activates that, and man, you can go really deep into that kind of woo-woo stuff, because they're trying to, what is consciousness? And then there's this whole thing with AI. Well, what is that consciousness, and what's that trying to do?
Yeah.
Is it a synthetic version of the natural consciousness of source, or is it?
Well, I've always maintained that we are creator beings and not just useless eaters like the eugenicists would claim that we are, right? You know, like the Hitlers of the world who said that certain populations were just useless eaters, and
that brings up something I want to touch on later.
Yeah, well, because if in fact we have become a useless eater, you know, consumer, someone that intakes the things that others provide to us, then we've let go of our innate nature of being a creator being, which to me involves imagineering and bringing your desires and plans and creations into manifested existence. And that's what I think some people have lost in terms of the innateness of themselves from when they were children and they played and they imagined and they played soldiers or dollies or whatever it was. They had a chance to imagine things and go in depth and have fantasies in their minds, which takes me to another point. I mean, we are a society that crushes creativity, which is ironic because we are creator beings. I mean, if you've ever stopped and looked out a window and your mind started daydreaming, that's an example of being a creative being, and it's perfectly okay. And then what you should do is harness those thoughts and take action on them. What tends to happen, though, is they say to little Johnny, "Stop daydreaming! Stop that right!" And what you're doing is instantly crushing creativity, it's wrong.
And why is that? I mean, we hear that story so much of our inner child that was judged, dumbed down, criticized, that whole daydreaming thing, all those abilities that you might have had as a kid when you were free to just imagine, free to just be who you really are. And then, you kind of get put into this box or this system control to put you in, like, don't be stupid, you could never do that. You could never be an actor, or you could never be this or that, or creative, or an artist, or, get a real job, that kind of programming to feed the matrix, so to speak. Yeah. So if you go off tangent a little bit, if you're a little bit out there and a little bit strange, and you're channeling entities or hearing voices, or you see ghosts, or any ability that's paranormal, not normal, considered normal.
Yeah.
I've always had this question, well, what if that's normal? What if that's our normal capability?
Well, that's always made me think that genetic,
to be able to do that.
It's always made me think that if you're someone that can do that probably genetically within your bloodline, there have been people that can do that in the past. You might be from a family that,
psychics, or
3 or 4 generations ago had psychics in there. Well, you might, those genes might be expressing, now at this point in time because of, the current state of the universe and the radiation from the sun right now might just be triggering things for you to come alive. And that's why I think you and I are really open-minded to people rather than wanting to suddenly see that everyone is instantly medicated and dumbed down, because what if this is part of who you are? So, okay, if you are hearing voices and you're psychopathic and you've got psychotic issues, seek help by all means. But be gentle on yourself and come to understand who you are as a person in the process. Don't necessarily buy into the idea that, having thoughts that are out there or whatever means you're crazy.
Yeah. And that's what I find so fascinating, because I've always been curious with people that have these abilities to tune into things that the normal average person couldn't do, or maybe doesn't understand. And so of course that's going to make you feel different, and it's going to make you feel maybe like an outcast. And I think it must be tough if you grow up and you don't fit in like that, and then you become almost a solitary person. You maybe shut off from the normal social world because you're a little bit strange. And I don't know, but I think sometimes you got to realize that, if you know yourself and you get to know who you really are, that could be your superpower or your gift to the world. And then you can channel that into something that's going to be of benefit and use.
Okay, and let's flip this around the other way. if you're someone who grew up without the option of and freedoms of being able to daydream, perhaps you're a masterful spreadsheet jockey. Maybe you're particularly rigid and you're thinking, you don't consider yourself creative, and you're listening to this and you go, well, that's nice, but I don't have that. That's not in me.
Yeah.
Well, I don't buy it. I don't buy that you don't have that, and I have every sympathy for you if you think that you've missed out on having a chance to have a creative childhood, because not everyone's childhood was perfect, right? We talk about these things as though everyone had that kind of childhood, and they didn't. And to that I want to say this. The brain has a remarkable ability to note down everything that it hasn't managed to get done and hasn't managed to develop, to allow yourself to start doing that at a later time when it's ready. And if now is that time in your life where you want to start trying to be creative, unlocking your creative side of your brain, there are so many things you can Google. How to be more creative, how to unlock my artistic ability, how to be in tune with myself. Google those phrases now, see what comes up, do the research for yourself, and start doing those things. And you'll find that if you take the time out to be more in touch with who you are as a human being, you will surprise yourself and probably discover that creativity, which you don't think you have, is actually lurking in the background, waiting to come out, and has been there the whole time, talking to you and being part of your thought process, but you never realized the creativity for what it is.
Well said. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, say you were really a good drawer, an artistic, you were good at drawing cartoons or animation and stuff, and that was something you really, really enjoyed and loved. But then say your parents wanted you to become, an accountant or something that was completely...
It's the go-to example, isn't it?
Yeah, an engineer, and you didn't have, that, because that's not going to pay the bills.
Something sensible.
But I think what happens is you suppress that, right? That talent, that gift, that talent that you have. And you might have had friends saying, oh, wow, can you draw me this character? And, and you could get that feedback from the universe, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you shelve that, man. You shelve that, and it's dark in the dark basement. And then, 10 years down the track, 15 years down the track, you're the accountant or the engineer. And nothing wrong with those jobs, but it's not
solid.
It's not maybe your calling. And then you walk, I'm just making this up as I go along, you're walking home from work and you go past a bookstore and you see this amazing comic, or, are they still around, comics?
Yeah, graphic novels are huge.
Yeah, graphic novel. But it's something stimulating. You go, I remember when I used to do that, And it could be...
And maybe your first thought is you don't want to do it again because that's not who you are anymore.
Yeah, I've got this job, these responses, and that's the tough part. And I always find that almost like...
That's programmed thinking, stopping you from going in and buying that comic that's caught your eye.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, being a graphic artist or finding, using your gift in a niche, in that niche is your calling, and will make you so happy and make you fulfilled if you're not fulfilled, So it's about listening to those nudges and identifying them and going, okay, I'm hearing that. I'm feeling that.
Well, it's a part of who you are that likes and enjoys those things.
Yeah.
And I think let's just stick with that example you've come up with. Someone walks past a bookstore or a place where a graphic novel is available, and they can be very adult books, like in more ways than one, right? But they can especially have deep intellectual plot lines, but it's a comic book, and some people would poo-poo that. But it is actually an adult thing. But it is quite creative, because when you look at those graphic novels, you're looking at essentially a storyboard from a film in a way.
They're made into huge films.
They are often.
And video games and
But here's the thing. When someone doesn't follow a creative path because they don't consider themselves that creative, or because they've been told that this is the best thing to do to secure a life where you can pay the mortgage and you can advance through society so that your parents won't be ashamed of you being a bum or whatever, what we tend to do and what we buy into, we agree with the idea of wanting to advance. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to have a lot of money in your life and you see that as the pathway for you, there's nothing wrong with being someone that aspires or is motivated, or what's the word I'm looking for, when they're hungry to get ahead. You know the word.
Yeah.
I can't think of it either right now. But if you're that kind of person, right, and you're passionate, and you think that that's the path for you wouldn't necessarily want to entertain a creative side of yourself because you want to knuckle down and get ahead.
Ambitious.
Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't
You
think
see,
of that
because
word.
maybe we're not.
There'd be people at home listening to this saying, it's ambitious.
It's ambitious. No,
But
yeah.
if you're an ambitious person, then what I think I'm about to say probably appeal to you. Entrepreneurs are highly creative. Successful leaders are highly creative. And if you're in that mid-level position where there is the possibility of advancement for you, you must engage your creative brain so that when you're spreadsheet jockeying the shit out of your job, that your creative side can go, hey, here's a creative way I can present this information to XYZ person. Here's a creative way we can approach this problem and succeed, because what I want to do is succeed, and there's nothing wrong with engaging your creative brain. And even if you're a shit drawer, your drawings amount to a hill of doodles. You know, you can doodle this, you can doodle that, but they're just doodlings. Do it, because it's still you being creative. Still look up that side of yourself, because it's so important to be a complete and full human being that engages the creative side and the rigid, process-driven side, because both are required in life.
Yeah, I like that. I love what you said there. I was thinking how early programming, like, you will never amount to much, you'll never make any money, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to be a struggling poor artist. How I actually fell for that. And
You don't because there
I
is
remember
a thing
that.
about being a struggling poor artist. Yeah.
That's actually a thing
Yeah.
where, and it's just a story. It's just because how do you define success?
Hey,
Like,
you
what
can
is your
be a
success?
struggling poor accountant too. It's all possible.
I mean, it's that whole, you can get really, what does Joe Rogan say? Become the hero of your own story. That you can get real motivational about it, and, you can change your life, and you should, life is so short. I love those things. But what I've learned is real success it can be it's a journey and it's a process. And sometimes that overnight success in any endeavor can take 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So, but yeah, it comes down to, because you bring up ambition and success, you can apply that to anything and in any job, on any level. And I think as long as you're doing something where you can honestly say, I'm actually really happy. And this is the deeper work. Because if you're not, and you're not, then it's like it comes back down to that whole, what I keep going on about is that whole victim archetype and the whole self-empowerment thing. It's like, hang on a minute. It's that whole, when we talked a while back about the reality of your own bullshit. It's like, I know that I need to do this, but I'm not doing it. And then it always responsibility comes firmly back on your shoulders. And it blows my mind sometimes when I start thinking down that path. And I go, I am creating all these thoughts. So if I'm creating these thoughts, I'm creating my reality, because these thoughts turn into decisions and actions and ways of perception of the world. When you really get that, suddenly it's like, I can't hide from anything. It's like this 360 mirror around you. Everything's reflected back on you, which is not to say that these things are out of control, but you can control how you think about them and how you respond and all that sort of stuff. And that's where your power is. Because I get it. You can feel like you're lost on an ocean of waves and you're just drifting and you think you're completely out of control. And that's the paradox. That's that whole, yes, it is. You have no control and you do have control. If you get what I mean.
Nicely said.
And it is a strange paradox. There are times when I feel like I don't even know how I ended up getting certain jobs or meeting certain people and having this sort of experience. Did I create that? On what level did I create that? I feel like I had no control, like there's some other source at play at work. That whole fate, destiny. But then I'm thinking, no, I have conscious choices. I have conscious decisions. I have some input in this, don't I? So yeah, I think like that sometimes. Like, how much control do we have with our lives? Is there a overarching greater, is your greater being guiding you? and putting you in those situations so that your soul can evolve and learn, and that's why, and or is life just one big who knows what's going on? I know there's a deep. We said we were going to go deep,
Oh man, I'm just gonna.
can it be answered? Probably not.
There's something going on there for me. Let me just swallow this bit of food. This is so good, by the way.
Did that stimulate something?
Okay,
Okay.
so I've been thinking a lot about, because I've set up my new studio.
Yeah.
We're in the process of getting a new Reality Hub studio, and it's really good recording here in Browne Street. But I'm building one in my new adopted hometown, and it's outside of where Rob and I normally meet in Auckland. And I'm setting up a new studio there, and preparing for another side of my life that I like to spend time doing, which is voiceovers. And one of the things that I've gotten overwhelmed with is the right way to do it. And the right way, the most efficient, best way to launch my voiceover career. I've been doing voiceover since 1998, but I'm looking at the international market now as something that I'm getting into wanting to do. And I've been listening to a guy who does a voiceover podcast about it. And I subscribe to all these people who give tips and tricks and coaching on the right pay-to-play platforms to join and all that sort of stuff. And one of the overwhelming things is just realizing you have so much to do and wanting to know the right way to do it. And I had this realization in the car today because I still work at a regular job, and I will do for some time before I take up doing voiceovers permanently. It's something I fantasize about and I'm preparing for in my future. But I also have, admittedly, a really great job that a lot of people would be jealous about, because it allows me certain freedoms and some really nice luxuries, like a car to drive around in, and the people that I visit as part of my clientele, they're just super nice people. So that's cool, right? A lot of people would think that was neat.
Yeah.
But you still have to follow your dreams, or at least bring into an aspect of your life a component of doing something else that is either your side hustle, that is your creative side, or is your artistic opportunity to attend things on evenings or weekends. And I'm trying to build that side of my life, and it's going to become part of our new Reality Hub studio, which is really cool in just a couple of weeks' time. But knowing what is the right way to do it overwhelms me. And in my car, I realized my greater being is going to guide me through that process, because there really is no right way. And the things that I go through, even if they're not the fastest way into being known as a voiceover artist, they'll be part of my journey that I'm meant to have. If I spend too much time at point A, B, and C rather than jumping straight through from A to Z, those will be experiences that my greater being wants me to have. And I'll learn from them. And so I can just sort of take my foot off the pedal a bit and relax and go, as long as I'm progressing forward, it doesn't really matter which stop on the way I spend more time at.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. It reminds me of, I think it was Oprah Winfrey who mentioned there is no right or wrong way. You just take the next best step.
Yeah.
And then you always come back to sort of, if the middle line is you're heading towards your goal, destination, well, so what if you veer off to the left? You go down that path, you learn, have an experience, and then you come back. And if you talk about your greater being, if that is part of your soul journey in this lifetime, you're going to get there, or you're already doing it. And that's what I picked up. Well, actually, you're already doing it, and you're doing it right in a sense that you've still got, it's a side hustle. And every entrepreneur or person that went freelance or stepped out of the 9-to-5 hustle, always, the recommendation is always just stick with that job until you get that other thing that you want to get off the ground going. You know, it's got some traction.
Well,
rather than just going, I mean, you can do that.
The philosophy has changed.
Yeah.
What you've said seems very sensible to me.
It seems sensible, yeah.
But the philosophy has changed. There was that time in the early 2000s where we were listening to Arnie on YouTube.
I thought you were going to say Tony Robbins.
People like that, and Will, what's his name? Will... Fresh Prince.
Oh, Will Smith.
Will Smith, thank you. And Will Smith, who had that video saying, don't have a plan B, because a plan B is a distraction from plan A. You know, and that sort of thing. He's like, yeah, we've talked about this in the past.
That's very linear, isn't it?
It's very linear. And I think
linear.
The sensible thing to do is to guide yourself through life with a clear sense of what you want to do, but don't shoot yourself in the foot in the process. Don't put yourself under undue stress. You can stick with one thing until you've built the other thing up enough, or if you have to entirely go from A to B and there is no middle ground, make sure you're ready first. Make sure you got your savings in place.
It's the wiser thing. It's sort of balancing the logic and the heart, and not going all heart. Like, I'm just going to pack my bags, I'm going to fly off to LA and try and make it. And yes, people have done that. So that's what you want to do, and you're sleeping on friends' couches and sort of sleeping in cars. You know, I mean, there's that romantic idea and notion behind that, rags to riches. But I guess it's about, you know, you do your way, and you can learn from people that have done it and paved the way. Who was it? Can't remember that famous. Was it Think and Grow Rich, or who was that?
Oh, Napoleon Hill,
who said surround yourself with the council of wise people, and even if they were had passed away, like presidents or artists or people that were successful in their field, he would have. I could be completely wrong if it's
I know
Napoleon
what you're talking
Hill.
about. Yeah,
but I remember thinking this, and say if you want to be a really good actor, and you admire certain actors, you could actually catch up with them in that realm, whether it's I don't even really call it the astral realm, but you tune in and you almost visualize and you get wisdom from them. I mean, you could even, if they were still around, you could probably even at some point get a hold of them if you're in the industry and you were rubbing shoulders. But the point is this is what I'm getting at, and to keep with the woo is that what if that there's another realm, like you've heard of like the Akashic records and that sort of stuff, but what if there is like like the internet, there's information everywhere, but you can download it straight into your psyche or into your being rather than using a device. So you can just, whatever information you want, you go directly to the source. I think that would be so cool.
Well, I think we can do that because I believe that human beings are fractals of the universe, which happens to be a good segue for the next discussion point, which you gave us, which was, are we a hybrid species, fractals of the universe? And so to that point, one's antenna can, if we are fractals of the universe, which means not a jigsaw piece of the universe, but rather a part of the universe in which all of the universe resides.
Yeah.
Then therefore we're at one with all things on some level, and you can be in contact with all thoughts and guidance.
Yeah.
What does a hybrid species mean, though?
Okay, so this is something which I have heard about, and I found it really interesting. So it's like it's the primordial question: where did we come from, and who are we? It's very veritas. It's very veritas.
Oh yeah, it is.
You know, the search for truth. I want to know the truth. Yeah, and it's true. Like, well, who are you? Like, who are you really? Where did we come from as a species?
Yeah.
Were there other ancient? Well, we know there were other ancient civilizations. You know, but are we the first human species? What if other species incarnated and lived on Mother Earth? Then you might go, well, isn't there references or evidence of dinosaurs and other, you know, and then you think, well, maybe there are other realms that we can't tune into. But the hybrid species concept is this whole thing where this could blow your mind or not.
I think it will blow people's minds if they haven't thought of this. If you consider yourself a Christian creationist, then we've only been around for 6,000 years. If you consider yourself an evolutionist, then hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years we go back through to maybe a million years or so.
Did we descend from like the apes? Did we evolve?
Or if you think that, as I suspect, in 2021 we're going to have an introduction and disclosure to aliens, then possibly. The next logical question is, were we part of an alien hybrid creature program?
Let's drop the bombshell. Are we an experimental species created by aliens, right? Because apparently, from what I mean, I don't know this through my own channeling or evidence, but this, I'm just going on what other people have mentioned. Yeah, are we a hybrid species? In other words, do we have alien DNA mixed with us to create this human being? Because we have this concept of other aliens and they've got two eyes and they walk upright and stuff, but they look different. Humanoid. We're humanoid. So are we and that ties in with the whole, we're fractals of the universe. So everything in the universe, anything you can possibly imagine, in the cosmos, is compressed into this human being form that inhabits this particular planet that has such amazing life.
Well, I buy that.
Do you understand what I mean?
I do,
Yeah. Do you get that concept?
I happen to buy that concept. That's part of my belief system of where I think we've come from, and that's because I subscribe to the George Cavassalis view on the history of humankind. And
your universal journey.
Yeah, our universal journey home. Yeah, that's right. No, so that's something I subscribe to, and I think he's got some really interesting information there. Highly recommend you check him out. Hey, let's go to the next question.
Yeah.
Do we understand the meaning of being a creator being? Oh, how funny. We sort of talked about being a creator being before.
We totally touched on that.
I think we gave that a good crack, actually.
And just a little tie-in with what I was talking about before.
Yeah.
And this is kind of another woo-woo thing.
Yeah.
So, what makes human beings different or special maybe to other
other creatures?
Beings, yeah.
You mean like a cat and a dog or a...
No, I'm talking about alien races.
Okay.
And you go, well, yeah, what makes them different? Because we've always had this notion that the alien races are superior. They're more advanced. Yeah. And we must look up to them, worship them. They're going to save us.
We are the warmongering
and
humans of Earth.
You just have to watch movies. I mean, there are countless movies out there and television shows and stuff about that. Alien invasion. Even what was that one of the originals? Independence Day with Will Smith. Anyway, What I was getting at is, what if human beings, part of their specialness is the fact that we are creative beings and that we can feel and sense and we can empathize and we have such a range of emotion, whereas other species can't access that.
Yeah,
right?
What if the great advantage that other species have
sets us apart?
Highly intellectual, but we have those emotional capabilities.
Think of Spock from Star Trek. He's
highly, that's a good example.
He's highly logical, and he doesn't understand why. No, why did you change your mind? Why didn't you kill him? Well, because I felt that,
You're emotional.
Yeah, you're too emotional,
It vexes me.
That's a perfect illustration. What does it mean to be human? What sets us apart?
Your emotions are illogical.
Your emotions are illogical, Captain.
Yeah.
Kirk. Is it Kirk?
Yeah. It was at one point, yes. Yes. So, okay, no, that's a really cool and interesting thing, because as I rudely interrupted you, what if, the great advantage that other aliens have is an advanced intellect and maybe telepathy.
Yes.
But what we have, as we're still uncovering that side of ourselves, and as we haven't quite evolved into that place yet,
waking up to those abilities,
is probably a greater sense of heart self.
Yeah, heart essence.
The expansion and awareness of emotions, and we deal with some intense emotions as human beings. One of the things I've heard in the woo-woo realm is that the mandated vaccines that they suspect are going to be pushed on people have an effect and an ability to destroy a human sense of empathy. So let's not take those psychotic-inducing, psychopath-creating vaccines.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. What's behind that?
Oh, God, I don't know. Something about chromosome 8, I hear.
I think you touched on something, because
Google that shit.
I've had an experience where, like, if you go... So, you think about third dimension, 4 dimension, 5, 7 dimension, 11 dimension. It's sort of... The only way to describe... Sometimes it's really hard to articulate, and words don't give it justice. But,
sure.
But you think about people when they transition or pass over, they go towards a light. They go back to source, pure source.
Yeah.
And you can't... It's like going out on a starry night and looking up at the universe and just being in awe, you can't actually explain it. So it's that I can't imagine what it feels like. But what if that's just pure love, and that's our 0 point, if you like. That's
our 0 point.
That's the zero. That supersedes everything. That's just like your infinite self. That's it. And then, of course, you get compressed and you become this humanoid human being, and you get aches and pains, and you're emotional and everything. So that's your human self. But your highest or greatest aspect of yourself is pure love, and I believe that. If you really tune into that, and love is not the Hollywood "I love you" or love you. No, it's
this is a hard planet to be incarnated upon. This has got some tough shit
Apparently,
going down.
yeah.
I remember hearing the story of a woman who believed she could recall her previous lives, and she could even recall and has memory of being born into this life, and everything that comes with it, and consciousness of prior and to choosing this incarnation, as well as her early memories as a spirit and in a child's body, and she.
Sorry, you know this person?
No, I remember hearing about a woman who had this experience, and the punchline, if you like, or the point of the story is, because that's the context of what she knew. She knew she had an important life to do on planet Earth. She had an important incarnation and lessons to learn and things to offer.
Yeah.
And when she got here, she opened her eyes as a baby and she went, "Oh shit!
Yeah.
Not this Earth.
Not this place.
Not this one.
Why did I choose this place?
Oh no!" Because apparently, if you have the viewpoint of parallel dimensions, then this was not the one she wanted to come to. Because this is the challenging one.
This is the
or one of
this
them.
is
maybe.
Probably the hardest place.
Yeah, this is so. Going back to the beginning of what you said,
because it's contrast expression.
This is one with high amount of contrast. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure everyone there'll be just ask yourself this question.
Yeah.
Push pause on your life and ask yourself this question: What's the highest, most amazing, extraordinary feeling you've ever had in your life up until this point? Pick that moment. Was it when you fell in love? Was it when you had your first child? Pick that, like the highest level of aliveness. Known, like on a scale, there doesn't need to be a scale. Just pick the highest, and that'll be your reference, and then go to the opposite. So everyone's experienced those dimensions. So that's what I mean about this, because people can have such terrible suffering in this world. Yeah. We know that exists.
Yeah.
Let's be straight about that. And if you're not experiencing that, then you should be really grateful, right? But if you picked a life where you're living in suffering,
it's tough going, man.
Yeah, it's tough going. Or you might have it. We all know people that have had a charmed life and seem to just breeze through and things are great. All your needs are met. You don't worry too much about existential stuff. So, but you bring a really good point. Do we choose to incarnate here? Do we have any reference of that? And that blows my mind, because I've said this so many times. Most of you out there can remember what you did yesterday, what you had for lunch, or a significant moment 2 years ago when you nailed that job interview or met the love of your life. You can remember those dates, but can you remember where you came from? I think it's a pretty valid question, because you're here. There's one thing that's undeniable, is that you exist.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't need any kind of, okay, you're awake, you're here. We know that much. Yeah. That's not woo-woo. That's just obvious.
You have consciousness.
Yeah, you have consciousness. You're a conscious being having an experience, and you're having some form of perception of this reality. And I know we have all different types of perceptions on that. But yeah, that's a really interesting question, because there are people that are aware and do have remembrance of where they came from, and they remember why they chose to come here. And then if you can choose, then do you have a say in, well, I want my life to be less challenging this time, or I want to learn this. I want to learn more about relationships, or I want to learn more about abundance this time. Do we choose that? A curriculum?
I think we do. I actually think we do. And I think sometimes we choose a couple of easy lives in a row because we know how hard a tough life can be. That actually takes us into the next question.
Oh, does it?
It
I'm telepathic, was it?
It does. How do we balance the physical nature of our human with the energetic nature of spirit?
Yeah.
Or energetic nature or spirit?
Yeah. I've
You're talking about living in the flesh suit.
yes. I have this kind of distinction now where if I'm having a really bad day and feeling crap and doing the whole feeling sorry for myself or just feeling like shit, I go, that's just my human being human. It's normal.
And then that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a whole other side of everything's okay in my spiritual world. I mean, well, not that everything's okay, but it's sort of distinguishing between the sort of the 3D physical reality of this world, but then the, what do you call it, the energetic world of unseen, the seen and the unseen, what you tap in, like the dream world or that realm.
Yeah, right.
Your spiritual nature.
Yeah.
There's that aspect as well, remember?
Yeah,
So don't
that's
get
true.
too caught up in the physical. Remember that. Don't get too caught up in the physical drama of stuff, because if you're watching all the news and all the crap and all the shit, you're getting caught up in it. But if you're sitting next to a river, in nature, listening to birds, breathing in the fresh air, smelling the greenery, I doubt whether you're getting caught up with the drama of it, unless you're consciously thinking about it. But it doesn't exist in that realm.
Yeah, because you're present.
You're present, but it's not. I don't see the trees or the water.
You can be
Well-
sitting in a place like that, and then it can actually be just a wonderful place to assess your drama from a place of,
Like,
of a different perspective. When you go, I don't have
Like
to
a
get so-
contrast.
I don't have to get so caught up in
Yeah,
this. This
yeah.
gives me
It's a-
clarity of thought.
But what I'm saying is, in that realm, it's not being created there. It's being created. It's a man-made thing.
Yes, indeed
Right?
it is,
The
yeah.
news agencies, the systems, the rules, the societal structures, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a man-made construct.
Yeah.
Because if we weren't on this planet, what's left? There was no mankind.
Yeah.
All the other natural species and
Well, you'll have to ask Elon, because I think he wants to take us to Mars. You back up Earth 2.0.
there's a few other planets out there that'll be worth investigating.
I think there would be.
Yeah.
But I really like this one.
When you think
I
about
really
it.
like Mother
when
Earth.
we master the whole, what is it? Time? No, what is it? Yeah, time jumping? No. What's that movie?
Well, it's sort of like a portal.
Portal. Yeah,
time-
time travel.
Time travel?
Time travel. Yeah.
Or portal traveling? Yeah, imagine if you could master that and you could just set up a portal to walk through, to go from here to New York so you could go get a bagel.
Like that movie. Remember?
Not,
Is that film?
not
In
Looper.
No, it's called Jumper.
Jump,
With
yeah.
Hayden Christensen, the guy that was briefly in Star Wars. Rachel
Okay.
Bilson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Nice.
there's a very cool movie about that. Anyway,
Okay, what really is our purpose or meaning beyond mere survival or the Matrix? Oh man, that's deep. That's real deep. What is our purpose? I think often when you look at the matrix of the reality we're in, that is in itself the challenge and the framework for pulling us away from what our essence is, but also in so doing gives us the challenge to come back through to find our real self and to find what our self really is under these challenges. So the key is not to say the matrix we live in is bad. I think it's to say, how does this unfold who I am? And do I like the person I have become in this matrix? Or can I use this jungle gym to strengthen myself so that the person that I am, where the weaknesses are, where the lack of temper is, where the outrageous responses to things can be repeatedly trialed until I get better at it, become more proud of the person that I am under these circumstances. So many people want to get out of the matrix. Hey man, that's your right.
yeah,
And if you can, great.
Yeah.
But also, we're here for a reason. So let's develop ourselves as the best people we can within this matrix, to the point that we even reshape it, change it, bust it, and break it, because we become a master of our reality.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening out there that's never really asked that question of themselves, because maybe you're just haven't, and you're unaware, and you're just too caught up in the matrix, and you haven't sort of thought about breaking out of it. Highly recommend the movie Matrix. Was it 1999?
It was 99, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's evolved a lot, that whole concept.
Yeah.
But you're right, the Matrix exists. And I think for a long time there was this, well, I feel there was this, it was a bad thing, it was an evil thing. We need to get out of it.
Yeah, right.
But the reality is that we're all living in it. So we're meant to be here at this point in time. And then it's about maybe changing your relationship with it.
And awareness of it.
And having an awareness of it and go, yeah, I know it exists. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. It's part of the structure. It's part of the nature of the reality I am in. It's a bit like going to, let me just use, I don't know, analogy in the sea. In the sea, in that marine environment, there are certain elements or things, forces at play. There are sharks, you know?
Yeah.
There are things that you've got to be aware of.
Are you still having that, Rob? No, that's good. Cool. Thanks, mate.
So yeah, just as a really simple analogy. So, you know, our matrix construct, there are certain things, and a lot of people use the matrix and are very successful at it. And have amazing...
Because they've figured out how to master the matrix.
Yeah, and use the rules, if you like.
For personal wealth, maybe.
Well, yeah, and they play it really well. But I know there can be this...
I just overfilled something. I'm so entranced with what you're saying.
The cup is no longer half full; it is overflowing. What was I saying? Yes, so some people are masters of the matrix.
Masters of it,
and they love it, and because they get it and they thrive on it. But other people want to unplug from it because it's something about their being that says, no, this is not really what I'm about. And I'm not trying to make it. Yeah, it's changing the relationship and not making it bad. Because I used to feel like it was a real bad thing.
Yeah.
And
what that does is it gathers an emotional charge that doesn't further help your situation with how bad it is.
Yeah, and you can't escape it. You can escape it to a degree, but your physical beingness is still in it because you're incarnated here.
You're here.
Unless you ascend into the into light.
And my recommendation is you do that only when the time is right and not beforehand.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I wonder what the sort of. I always think about a couple of things. How many people are on this sort of wavelength and think about these things, like the topics we've described?
All three people that listen to the podcast, I suspect.
All three. How, like, on a global sense, and this is a question probably we're going to touch on later, but how many people have woken up this year and re-evaluated their reality, the world, and gone, oh, okay, and I guess everyone's got their own personal story on that and how that, and I think we're on the, is it the leading edge of the way where it's like, man, it's just going to speed up now, and we've got like the next few years, things are going to really start going. Yeah, this is just. I feel like this is the entree. Things are
just going to pause for a second.
Yeah.
I made a bit of a spill here. Would you mind bringing us some serviettes or something? Thanks.
Bailey.
No, that one wasn't Bailey. That's the other one. No, she's not Bailey.
Yes.
No, I'm pretty sure she's not.
She is.
No, is she?
Yeah, she is.
You sure about that?
Okay, you want to put a bet on it?
Okay. You're not Bailey, are you? That's what I said, Rob. Come on, man, seriously.
Come on, man.
Yeah. You got to remember people's names. Thanks. Okay, so
glad to cleared up.
I was definitely wrong.
Glad, so I've just, what have I won?
All she's done is spread around the water. There it is. Wet arms now. It's my fault. I
should have got a huge wager on that.
Yeah.
I like that name, Bailey. Anyway.
It's cool, isn't it? So,
the Matrix.
That ties into the next question then. Do we as humans value the physical nature of reality over the non-physical?
Oh, the material versus the...
The material?
Yeah. See, that's the thing, eh? It's like we can get so caught up in the material world. Possessions. The money, status. All those things. All the things you own. All the things that you accumulate. All the... Yeah, the material things.
And those things are fine.
Yeah, but you can get really caught up in it, and we are a consumeristic world, so...
So you know what I find funny about that is people getting caught up in too many things. So one of the problems we see today is when people have a problem with hoarding, and they can't let go of stuff.
Yeah.
Because their incredible collection of photographs, they can't get rid of them. They're all emotional memories for me.
Yeah.
And there's certain personality types who are very sentimental, but it does my head in when you hold on to things that don't work or are broken. I mean, it's like having a collection of pens, and you go to use one and it doesn't work, and you put it back in the collection. Oh, for God's sake, crack it in half right now so that everyone knows you shouldn't use it, and put it in the bin. But when it comes to boxes of files and old records and things you don't no longer need to keep, things like my first handprint as a child in kindergarten on the get rid of it. It's time to move on. And it's time to downsize and things in life so that you have more space to expand and to walk through your home with an ability to get from A to B without tripping up over your old issues, And I think, like for me, my mum had quite a lot of stuff, and when she passed away, I had to work my way through that, and it was emotionally very difficult to do for me. But she's no longer with us, and plenty of those things I don't actually need, so I let them go. And I donated them, or I some of these things are just they're of no value, and I'll let them go. And some things they were the odd bit of jewelry or whatever. But I think what we see in life is people, whilst they're living, actually hold on to so many things, and they become psychologically representative of their emotional state of things they haven't let go of. I mean, that's something that happens today in this world of abundance more so than ever before.
I know. I mean, I'm a sentimental guy, and I do hold on to a few things, and I would struggle to get rid of them. They're just sitting there. Because I guess they do represent something on some level. They provide some sort of comfort or some sort of And because I'm trying to get down to the bottom, like hoarding stuff. Like, what does that represent? Are you trying to fill a void? Is there something missing in your life? I remember a friend of my mum. She had like hundreds of pairs of shoes, and it's still in their box, so I'd never even wearing them. So it was just this. And I thought, well,
there's some kind of programming there, right?
Well, I'm thinking it must be filling something that something else is not filling. So, you don't need more shoes. You can only, that's pretty obvious. You're not even wearing most of them.
More shoes than you'd need for the rest of your life.
So what are you missing in another aspect of your life that's filling up?
Yeah,
that's what came to me.
Yeah, nicely said.
Yeah.
And you see it on those hoarders television shows.
Yeah.
Where someone can't let go of something. And you can see how messed up their life is. So it becomes understandable that a thing they can't let go of is that little bit of framework that they're clinging to, which gives some comfort about something.
Yeah.
Or it shows a high degree of mental programming that they haven't come to terms with. I mean, holding on to coupons or plants and things that you no longer need in your life, or knickknacks, or a thing you picked up for free.
Yeah.
And you think about how hard people work to go through a decision-making process to get rid of stuff when that's what they're facing as a challenge, to get rid of and sort and triage through their hoardings. You've got to take your hat off to people who do it. It's really hard, especially if you've got a big place with many rooms and it's full of shit. But you've got to say to that person, it was really easy for you to gather these things, and now it's become really hard for you to let them go.
Yeah.
Why don't you let them go? Because if you need to regather things like that again in the future, remember how easy it was.
Yeah. And another thing is, when people move, they shift house or apartment, whatever, you realize how much shit you have in that moment.
Definitely.
It's like, oh boy. And if you downsize, you know that for sure, if you're going to a place that's a lot smaller. But, and the crazy thing is that you can't take any of that with you.
No.
It's like you're born with nothing, in a relative sense, and you die with nothing, although you have everything within you. But materialistically, you can't take your possessions, your house, your car, your clothes, all those things. You just they're gone, and it's just left.
That's good. That's a good segue to the next one. How do we wake up and become more aware of our multi-dimensional selves?
I know. It's crazy. Who was I talking to the other? Yeah, I was talking to someone. Oh, it might have been actually last night, about how you're not just a son or a father or a daughter or this or that. You're so much more. We have these labels, and then you go, well, you have a physical being, you have an emotional being, you have a spiritual being, you have a like a mental intelligence being.
Yeah.
You have all these different beings residing within you, and all these dimensions to who you are, which is just fascinating. So it's very, if you go to that whole fractal of the universe analogy, then you have all these different dimensions that are there within you. So you're not just this one thing.
No, it's okay.
Your nature is that you're just think about when you dream, you're in a different dimension.
Multidimensional. Yeah.
You're in a different dimension there. I had this dream, blows my mind, but I'll have a dream and I'll meet someone and I'm talking to this person in high detail. This person has a personality, looks like a person but I've never met this person in my life. Because I'll wake up and go, who was that? I mean, it'd be different if I was dreaming about someone I know, and I'm going, where's that coming from? Does this person exist? Am I just going somewhere else and meeting them, and why? Yeah, and because when I wake up, the details are a bit shaky. Like I don't know what we were really talking about, but sometimes I do. But that's what I'm talking about. It's like there are other aspects and levels of beingness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it even important to wake up?
Wow. If you wake up, you can go to work and earn some money. No.
Because then there's a question here. Are we really in the most intense awakening process? Are more people waking up to their true nature beyond their programming? And why is it important?
Yeah, waking, like the definition of waking up to me is just waking up to more about who you really are and your true nature, and being curious about, there's Jeff.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
Literally snapping out of the trance of, this reminds me of, you've heard of these sort of NPCs.
Non-player characters.
Yeah. And I've heard
Ryan
this.
Reynolds got a movie about it coming out.
Oh, is that what it's about?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And I think how they wake up and become...
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
It's an interesting concept, and I remember this being talked about on Elizabeth April, EA. She talked about, you should really check out her YouTube channel, actually, because she goes right into this stuff. But one of her, she has a membership, and one of her members asked this question, like, what do you think about that? And she goes, well, every sentient being has to have a soul. There has to be something driving it. But I can't remember exactly what she said, but it's almost like they were more on automatic pilot and they hadn't woken up.
Yeah.
So if you've woken up, you have greater access to the reality and the perceptions of reality, and you're not just in this sort of zombie-like unconscious mode of eat, sleep,
day-to-day existence,
watching TV. Can't see. You got your blinkers on, basically. You can't see anything beyond what's right in front of you. Yeah, I don't know. That's my kind of interpretation of. But it reminds me of the whole people that are sort of. I mean, NPC are that they're, to use the gaming reference, is they're being controlled by the AI and computer.
Yeah.
Whereas the main characters are controlled by you, where you can decide and make decisions and be aware, have an awareness. Whereas the other ones are just sort of background.
It's a good analogy, because maybe it's like we allow ourselves to become controlled by the Matrix AI, the system, and then we pull out of that and we live our sovereign beingness and make decisions for ourselves from time to time.
Yeah.
But then far too often we go back to automatic pilot.
Yeah, it's an automatic pilot mode of just existing, and not really stretching your imagination or your consciousness. And some people just wake up because they have a sudden epiphany or realization or aha moment. Well, one of those shifts their whole worldview and go, holy shit, okay.
One of those for me is, it's a saying I've got that I've used a lot at the moment. Life is too short, and even if you live to 100, it's still too short. Yeah, and that's That's the thing that helps motivate me to get things done.
Right.
What is the ascension process, Rob?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
That sounds like part of the new cage.
Yeah, it goes with the whole,
The new cage
shift
religion.
of consciousness and moving from, the way I understand the different levels of, from 3D to 4D to 5D, and then so that you're accessing more of your abilities, and you're tuning in and channeling. You're getting downloads and you're upgrading your DNA, that sort of thing. And
Isn't that what the vaccine is doing?
is it? Don't know. Yeah, it's upgrading.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see with these
in
mRNA
a
vaccines.
nefarious way, perhaps.
Yes.
But it's a process of a spiritual awakening and journey and enlightenment, and
Yeah. It gets bandied around a lot.
yeah, that ascension. You're reaching higher levels of consciousness.
It strikes me as a bit pretentious, when I hear it from certain people who are
Yeah.
really into the archangel downloading channeling stuff. And then they're always talking about the ascension process. And I think what they're failing to do is be at one with their true nature and accept themselves for who they are. They get all caught up in looking like they are part of the love, light, and white light brigade.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's as a species, are we evolving? Yes, we are. We're evolving spiritually, and consciousness is evolving, shifting. And I suppose it's just, I suppose it's the ascension process is something that, like a framework or something you can grab onto to sort of facilitate that and to. But the thing is, for me, is that it seems like you're always giving your power or handing it over to something else, to a higher.
Yes.
You got to attain.
That's
like
why
what
I'm
level you at?
suspicious of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that there are different levels to things. I get it. I mean, it's just, once again, the binary nature. There's an up and down. You can reach different heights. You can go the other way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if there's a specific process. But ascension, what is that? Feeling into it, it's like it's almost like maybe you're getting close to some sort of source or higher realm. You're becoming more spiritual because I'm ascended now.
Oh,
but you are already. You already. There's actually no ascent.
I don't buy it.
Yeah. That's what I feel.
Yeah. I think that's what they're trying to say it is. And they're trying to attract people in, like attract moths to the light. Worries me. Good people get caught up in the chakra system and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was once there myself. And that's why I'm like an anti-smoker who's the most avid anti-smoker of all, because I was really caught up in the new cage religion when I was younger. And now I'm like, that stuff is kind of bullshit. Let it go. Yeah.
I mean, look, I still listen to people that talk about ascension and stuff because there are other elements.
I do too. I do too, because they've got other things to offer me.
And I feel like they have, and I sort of go with the people that have really good intention, and I can just just extract what I need, because I know that it's not just about ascension, and that there's a whole other stuff that they talk about that I'm interested in, and curious about.
Well, interestingly, I've been really curious about the American election. And what may come in February when Trump challenges legally the what he's calling the fraudulent election.
Yeah.
Now, I'm interested in it, like any human being should be who's interested in the affairs of our world.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people who are presenting that information are quite they're part of the Jesus Brigade. A lot of the people I'm listening to who have that information on podcasts and stuff, they're like, praise be to God, we're not going to let this election be a fraudulent one, and let's pray for an outcome that is really positive, and with God's help we're going to this, and the truth will be exposed because Trump is a good man. And I'm like, just triage that shit aside and give me the information, and then they give you some good information. So from your perspective, I think it's a similar scenario. We're into ascension and changing your vibration into 5D, but in the meantime, I can tell you some other things that are good about meditation.
I can get past. You can believe what you want to believe. That's entirely your sovereign right. So I'm not gonna. I can disagree with you. But it doesn't mean I feel like I can then get past that and go, well, I know you believe in that, but you have some other stuff that I find really interesting and valuable. So But if you can't get past that, you'll never get that other part of that. You know, the others. You know, it's like
Absolutely.
you go, hang on a minute.
It actually makes you close-minded.
You read the title of that book, but you didn't get past the first page, and yet in chapter 2, 3, 4, it was like there's some amazing information there, and you don't realize what that person can offer. But getting back to the election, it's scary, man, because the words "in God we trust" isn't that an American? Is it on their dollar bill, on their currency, or is it
I
some?
think so.
It's one of their foundational truths. And I remember seeing at the end of a Trump speech. He was in Georgia, I think, and he was really fired up. And he the way he said those words, like that, like you know,
it really meant something.
It's like it's in the heart of a lot of Americans. And I wonder those are some powerful statements. In God we trust, so we trust that we hand it over to God.
Very, very strong programming.
Yeah, programming.
Right,
and I go, whoa, okay.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Some systems or structures that are in play. You know, look, I love America. I love American people. I've always had a real strong connection with Americans and the feel and the vibe of the country.
Yeah.
And I've always felt America has played I've mentioned this to you, such an important part in this world. If every country has a role to play and has a different energy and feel behind it. And America is really fundamentally is going through some shifts, and I think it's really important that the good comes out. Because there's such divisiveness there. There is like 70+ million, and as Trump says, that's the most they've ever voted for any American president. There was 6 million more than Obama. 70 million. I don't know. That's what he's saying.
And more than who voted for him last time.
I think it was 6 million more than last time he came into office. But that's a lot of people on one side. And then how many people in America? 300.
I think approximately 300
Those are just
million.
the voting. But that just blows my mind. That you can literally walk into a restaurant or a bar and 50% of the people don't agree with and they're quite adamant.
Yeah.
And there'd be fights.
It's a lot more than you think.
Yeah.
Hey, let's hit question number 11. What is time? Linear versus non-linear. This is huge, man. Jesus, you've been boom shankering on this one. Conical or circular time? Do we really exist in the past, now, and future?
All at the same time.
All at the same time? Oh, man.
I don't know, yeah. It gets me thinking about...
I do know one thing. We're here right now.
Yeah, so this is present. And I think we have this recording and memory of the past, and we can access that almost like a hard drive or whatever. You
From
go
realityhub.love, or maybe you can access it through your favorite podcast player.
Yeah, but it blows my mind. I kind of get the concept now of the conical time where there's
tell me about that.
So at the origin of that, like I'm just calling it probably wrong, but the 0 point.
Oh, yeah.
When you incarnate into this reality, everything exists all at the same time because it's conical, it's circular, it's not just 1 point. But anyone in that circle is past, present, and future, right?
Okay.
So if you get that vision, I'm probably not explaining this right. So, and when you go back to the origin, it's all existing in 1 point. Mm-hmm. So you can access any of that time, future, past, from that point. But when you're down in this reality, you can't.
Because you're somewhere on the circle.
Yeah.
And
I know, it's a strange
that
concept.
Conical 0 point, you're at the top of the peak. The cone.
And it's all emanating or coming from that intention. So
that's a beautiful image.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I got that from George.
Okay.
I'm sure George K. Kavasilis has mentioned that, and I thought that was just such a beautiful way of illustrating it.
Yeah.
To get your head around it. Because most of us feel like we can think about the past, we can future, like, what am I doing tomorrow, what am I doing next week, what's on my schedule. But it's true, you're only ever existing in the now, but that's a real, it's a real 3D thing, a linear thing. But in a quantum realm, like parallel universes, and I don't know much about this, but apparently all these timelines exist simultaneously, and you can skip in between them. Yeah, and they can converge. I hear this all the time.
Converging is really interesting, right?
I hear that timelines converging
into each other.
Yes, and
that's where people can have a different version of history. because they
Yeah.
came from a different collapsing timeline.
Oh man,
Now, how's that for Boom Shanka Woo Woo? It's pretty far out. Okay.
it is.
Okay. What are downloads, DNA activation, and light codes? Is that part of the new cage thing?
Yeah, that's all about. I think that whole when you ascension, when you reach higher states of consciousness and beingness, you can then access and download. I think light codes are. Can't even define it, but it's almost like information that are in light form.
Okay.
That you. Let's just say you go and you send the sun. You're downloading information from the sun.
I was just going to use that example.
Solar energy. Whether you, I mean, the plants do it. You know, the whole planet. Well, yeah, the whole planet is radiated with solar energy.
Yeah.
And it's pretty important. Just quietly. I don't know if you've even noticed that or thought about it.
That's a really interesting concept, right? Because what if that radiation
carries information.
Comes with information?
It's information. So you're getting that from the cosmic, astral, whatever realm.
Yeah.
And you have access to that. So you have access to information. And then your DNA activation is activating more of your, as we were talking before about your hybrid.
Right.
Yeah. So you are becoming more Palladian.
I am actually becoming more Palladian.
Thank
you can see
shifting.
it, right? Right now.
Yeah.
No, I've always thought the Palladians was, if you're going to judge a book by a cover, it's a place with a really cool name.
I like the name.
So do I, yeah.
Or perhaps you're from Orion, from the Orion
probably
system.
I am, yeah. Or maybe I'm a fractal of the universe and I've done them all.
Maybe you have,
I'm just rounding out my experience here
Maybe
down on Earth.
you're a guardian of the galaxy.
Or a guardian of the garden. Mother Earth, Garden of Eden. Whatever it is, I got another question for you. Solar flares and Schumann resonance.
Yes. Have you been feeling it?
Yeah.
Feeling something
I got a
anyway.
bit sick earlier in the week and they say there was a rather large solar flare at the same time.
Yeah.
I was feeling something. Yeah.
I don't particularly follow the Schumann
Theory?
resonance. No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah.
You know, and loosely, what is it? It's the Earth's magnetic field. No, what is it? It's.
Well,
should we look this up?
I think we might look this up.
We should better understand it, but apparently it's been spiking. So the Earth obviously has its own energy, and and it must be Schumann must have discovered this or measured this, right?
He must have.
So, because the Earth has
he sounds like a German guy, so he probably
magnetic
did
field, has a whole bunch of. So I think so that's been spiking.
Funny when you do the Google for what is the Schumann resonance, you also get what is the Schumann resonance today, like it changes from day to day. So the Schumann resonance is a set of spectrum peaks in the extremely low frequency ELF portion of the Earth's electromagnetic field spectrum.
It is the electromagnetic
and
field.
Schumann resonances are global electromagnetic resonances generated and excited by lightning discharges in the cavity formed by the Earth's surface and ionosphere.
In English, please.
Okay. Well, what can I say? That was English to me. The Schumann resonance is a set of spectrum peaks in the extremely low frequency portion, that's the ELF, and there are global electromagnetic resonances generated and excited by lightning discharges. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, and what's interesting about that, I think, is there may be a relationship, as I've always maintained there is, between the Earth and the Sun.
Yes.
The masculine and the feminine, Earth being feminine and the Sun being masculine, and those what we hear through mythology and through kind of new spiritual teachings is that the Sun and the Earth are divine expressions of feminine and masculine, of which we as human beings have the ability to fractally hold both sides, even though I express as a male and as a man and maybe in a previous lifetime, maybe as a woman, but as an existence of consciousness in the human skin suit, we have the ability to be a fractal of the universe and contain all aspects of living life. And when the Sun and the Earth communicate with each other through solar flares and through resonance, and they respond to each other, really interesting things happen within our consciousness. It's both exciting and frightening to think that in this modern era of advancing AI and technological leaps, which I both love and hate, because I do really enjoy it at times, that perhaps things like the Starlink satellites traveling around the planet, the increased presence of things in our orbit protect us from things like the radiation from the sun, which in some ways has a positive aspect on our being. Certainly if you just look physiologically at the importance of vitamin D through our skin, how so many people now have problems associated with lack of sleep and so on because they're not getting vitamin D and in their life. And I find that really fascinating. So yeah, I mean, that's gone a bit woo-woo there for me, but the connection with Mother Earth, whom I feel we must serve and look after and keep tidy and be in tune with, also means a connection with the sun, and not to be afraid of getting out into the sun, to be healthy.
Yeah.
Don't burn, but you know.
And if you know anything about, I'm just trying to think of that. There was that thinking of back to Will Smith. He narrates this documentary about the planet, and I can't remember the name. Remember?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because it's all just science, but it talks about exactly the sun's relationship on a scientific level with the earth, and how the earth has this ability to sustain life in the atmosphere, and how this crucible of creation and life here is reliant on so many factors that you almost can't even. One Strange Rock.
Yeah, there it is.
Right. Yeah, it's
One Strange Rock. It's on Netflix.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Because you understand how the ecosystem we're in, how everything's interdependent and connected.
Yeah.
Connected on such a fundamental level that if we didn't have the Earth atmosphere, would be radiated out of our brains, basically. Life can be, there's a fine balance,
Yeah.
Yeah, like the ozone layer and all these things.
This is the necessary requirement to sustain life
so that's
as we know it.
what makes this planet so amazing, that it's holding life here as she does. But that fascinates me, the whole relationship, because we're in a solar system, a system of planets, all interrelated.
Yeah.
And they all have their own energies and histories and stuff. And, I mean, far out. It's fascinating.
Well, there are some people who feel the loss of one of the planets in our solar system to this day, who say that there was a moment in time where there was another planet in the system, and it got obliterated and smashed and zapped.
Hence some of the asteroid belts. And
became the Saturn's rings.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with Mars. The fascination with Mars is because of the history of it. And obviously it supported life at one point.
There are people now who have memories of those lifetimes that are living here on Earth.
Yeah, and are there... Yeah, I mean, we can get deep into that. And I don't know enough knowledge, just the stuff that I've picked up. But I'm obviously
But if you're out there
by...
and you're listening to the show and you remember your time on another planet too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Send us a message on IG.
So, the solar flares apparently are spiking towards the end of this year.
Oh, just in time to deal with the election.
And I think astrology as well is quite interesting, the energies that are playing out at the moment.
Fascinating.
With the relationship with the planets and why. Because when you get into it, when this whole COVID thing started, I can't remember the planets, but I think we talked about it, how the relationships and whether it was the right environment for upheaval and for everything to play out. And so it's interesting to see what's going to happen.
It's so interesting that with everyone going inside for COVID, so many people were disconnected from the father-son aspect of their energy systems, which brings masculinity and the warrior archetype to life. And I think we need that in our lives just as much as we need to be in touch with our feminine side.
Yeah.
And have that caring expression and manifestation. Both caring as both kinds of parents, as a mother and as a father.
Yeah, because
as a friend, as a lover, as a whatever you are to those around you.
Yeah.
Hey, that's
very true.
That's nice, because that brings us to almost the last question, which was portals and energy grids. And I
covered so much.
We really have, and we smashed it through too.
Yeah.
What is your feeling about portals and energy grids that you wanted to talk about?
Well, it's a little bit like what we were talking about with the electromagnetic fields.
Yeah.
So there are different. Imagine from what I understand, the Earth. There's almost like it's like a grid pattern of energy, ley lines, I think they call them as well.
Yeah.
And then on these ley lines, they're just energetically they're more powerful. And a lot of the ancient
It's why
civilizations,
the pyramids are where the pyramids are.
exactly.
It's why. What's that thing in the United Kingdom? Stonehenge is where Stonehenge is.
It's all that sort of stuff, ley lines, and then you can imagine those are the physical lines on the planet, and then but above there's like a whole grid as well.
Yeah.
And you talk about that whole Starlink thing. When you think about it, if you had all these satellites floating around and they're all connected, that's creating a grid around the planet. So it's not woo-woo stuff at all.
It's creating a Skynet.
Yeah, Skynet. Yeah, so it's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
It's
also
a reference to Terminator, in case you're wondering.
Yeah. What is it? Sarah Connor. John.
I'll be back.
But it's couldn't remember what the line was.
We've been a little slow in our references today.
I love Arnie.
Yeah,
and portals are once again high vibrational energy areas on the planet where people go to meditate or channel or do their rituals and stuff. Yeah.
Have you heard about people going to portals and finding themselves slipping in time back into the past and then into the future again?
Yeah, like stargates or that sort of. Because I think a stargate is like a portal.
Yeah.
So it's like a. No, I was trying to remember a movie that was dealing with that, about portals and.
I watched a fascinating movie about. I watched a fascinating bit of information, I should say, about a fellow who had a time slip moment when he was travelling as a qualified aeroplane instructor from one location to another, and he passed over an abandoned airfield. Totally abandoned, and this is prior to World War II.
Wow.
On his trip back, he went through this incredible cloud system that he couldn't climb out of, and he had to come down approximately in that area where that field was. And suddenly the field was alive. Now, only the day before when he passed through, it was totally abandoned. And it was alive with activity, and people were talking, and there were new planes there he'd never seen before. So he didn't land, he flew over it.
He's like, wait, what?
And then he's like, this is really strange. And then then he went back out through the clouds again to carry on through his journey, and it was the most rough cloud experience. And it was as though the clouds represented a portal, because when he got home, he said to people, I can't believe that field came alive. And they said, there is no one there. And he could absolutely track and say where he was.
Yeah.
And they said, there's no one there. And 10 years later, when the war hit, what he saw was there.
Yes.
And what a fascinating experience.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, let's wrap up with what has 2020 taught you?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. For me, it's just really... It's kind of reinforced what I already knew about myself. Mm-hmm. So it's not like there's been this real aha epiphany. I've always realized that the world is very volatile and in an uncertain place. That's the nature of this reality. We like to think we're in control, that the traffic lights work and we have an internet connection and, we're relying on these things. We get comfortable with that. But, yeah, truly, I feel like... everything has always been uncertain, and it's just trying to remain grounded, and and all the things that I've learned in my life, all those sort of came to the fore, all my coping mechanisms. And sometimes I think, like everything, this too shall pass. So whatever you're going through, everything is impermanent; it's in flux. So we can be in a totally different situation this time next year. Good or bad, depending on what side of the fence you're on, But I think also there's this whole thing, this shift of, do you want the controlling forces at B to keep doing what they're doing, or do you want more people to tie on what we've been talking about, to wake up and start creating the future that you want to be, want to happen?
You're reading my mind, mate. It's really
right.
Similar thing for me.
Yeah. So that's really important. Remember, so if you truly believe you're a creator being and that you're
Oh my
being
God.
a positive.
Can you see what I just wrote there, bro? That's what I was just noting down myself whilst listening to you.
Yeah,
What
well,
I'm
there you
gonna,
go.
what my
Well,
answer
we're
is. Just
tuning
read it
in.
out. That's what I just, as you were saying before you even said those words, I wrote that down.
Yeah,
I'm gonna read it out.
read it out. Yeah,
2020 has asked me what I really want to be doing, and to get serious about creating that existence.
yeah.
I can't
yeah,
believe you said
yeah,
that as
yeah.
I was writing.
Well, there you
That's
go.
amazing,
I mean,
yeah.
when I was just free flowing that one.
Yeah, definitely in tune on that.
And so that brings to mind that the future is also fluid. You can create that, and if you, if you can be aware of what's going on, but then shift your focus to what you really want, and then inspire other people to do the same, then you're going to get this shift. So,
Well, I think we can. I think we
Yeah,
can inspire
yeah,
other
yeah,
people
more
to
and
do
more
that.
people
Because
to-
if you're listening to this, you're probably thinking about a shift in your life. 2020 for me has been both kind and harsh on me. It's had things that have really pushed my boundaries and things where I've gone, gosh, I've been really lucky.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been, thankfully, one of the people affected by any of the pandemic stuff much.
yeah,
I've been all right, but it has made me take the time out to assess what's actually really important to me
yeah,
and make some difficult decisions about making that reality come true. Mate, this has been a good one.
it's been it feels like it's been a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, if you're listening, do follow us on our IG, our Facebook. Give people the details, Rob.
Yeah, so Instagram is just at realityhub.love, and yeah, pretty much the same for the Facebook. Yeah, Reality Hub, yeah.
Or
Just
go to
check
our
us out.
website, realityhub.love.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you can find all the podcasts on there. I'm going to chuck up some new pictures, and there's some. My blog post is still up and running.
Your blog posts are excellent.
Yeah, I've got a kind of woo-woo one that I want to publish soon. I've got to just finalise that.
Excellent. Well, on that note,
and actually, I hope it hasn't been too woo for you out there.
Nah, if you're listening to
it's
this.
and that it's just helped to pique your mind and ask the questions. Keep an open mind and be curious about who we are and what we're really doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nicely said. Well, on that note, thanks again to Jeff and today to Bailey, who's been looking after us at the table, and all the staff at Browne Street Cafe in Avondale. Until next time, guys.